What's up, everybody? We're here live on WOM.
Welcome, everyone.
Myres, I'm going to let you do the honors today.
We are in my parents' living room, and the two people sitting next to me are my parents.
Yeah!
I think there's a caveat.
What's the caveat?
It's our living room temporarily.
Right.
Yeah.
So my parents moved here in November. They've been living in this rental house.
In Birmingham.
In Birmingham. Yeah, here to Birmingham from Mississippi. We'll get to all that stuff. But they are moving into their house that they purchased on Saturday? I guess Saturday.
Get the keys on Friday, move in on Saturday.
So that's pretty awesome. I'm stoked that my parents live here. What are you guys' names, Mom and Dad?
I'm Robert.
I'm Gelaina.
Welcome to the podcast.
Mama G.
Yeah. Also, we have to take a second to just say that Robert and Gelaina are, yes, Myres' parents, but also our most faithful WOMers.
Absolutely.
Have you listened, Gelaina? Have you listened to every single episode?
I think I'm one behind. I haven't.
One behind.
Yeah, because I have like a job where I can't listen to podcasts anymore. So
Oh, dang.
my commute is like, a minute and a half. So
Is it Phil Kimry? Is that who you work for?
that's it.
Phil Kimry, if you're listening, you gotta give Gelaina some podcast hours back.
That's right. We need to put the WOM on.
You get a TV in the lobby area. Just play it
Conference room.
on
Yeah.
loop. Yeah,
We
on
also
loop,
have a fifth person here. Chloe is our producer of the day. Say what's up, Chloe. Point your microphone over there and say nice. She's currently taking notes on our podcast like a lecture right now. So that's kind of weird.
That's funny.
She's
over there
journaling.
writing a book, which is what she does in every spare
This
second.
morning
Yes.
I heard a girl saying she was doing like a block. Have you heard of this? Like a journal block? Okay. It was some term I had never heard before. She was like, I talked to you in my journal. She was talking to a guy that she was with. And she said, I talked about you in my journal block this morning. And I was like, okay.
It's like is that like a blocked out section of time where you journal? Or what does that mean?
I'm literally talking about this because I don't know what it is. But I'm curious. Maybe it's like new age. It's like
Maybe the producer would look it up.
Hey,
Oh, wow.
producer Chloe, can you look up
Stop your journal
block?
blocking and look up journal blocking.
See, I thought Chloe should be on because she's now like TikTok famous. I don't know if you know.
Right, I forgot
She went
about
viral.
this.
Wait, are you being serious?
Absolutely.
Wait, what'd you do?
She's writing a book. I don't think it had to do with writing the book though.
Are you being
First of
serious?
all-
You actually had a TikTok go viral?
100%. Her very first one with the new account that she set up.
So 300,000 views.
What? Wow.
Using a
Journal or
Journal.
planner to block out things.
So
That
it
actually
is-
makes
it's
total
like-
sense.
Yeah.
What you were saying then. Just
Wow.
block your time.
Well, in
off
this
for different
context, it
things.
was a work or like an employee talking to her boss. So
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Wow.
So anyways, now that we know what journal blocking is,
Learning new things.
Mom and Dad.
Wait, sorry. I have to know what about Chloe's TikTok.
Oh, Chloe. Yes, Chloe it made a TikTok with Natalie, like a TikTok account with Natalie, and they're reviewing books. And one of them went viral. What book did you review? Fourth Wing. Yeah, that's a
And
hot.
what
hot
did you
book
do? Like
these
crap
days.
on it or something, or what? Why did it? It was a joke and a meme.
Yeah, like we weren't necessarily talking about the book, but it was like a silly play on words using a sound that's popular right now.
What's the TikTok account called?
CXN.Chronicles.
Look them up.
Chloe times Natalie.
We'll have to interview you again now that you're TikTok famous.
Absolutely.
So 300,000 views. How many likes?
TBD.
That's hilarious.
I actually,
Last I looked,
I've
it
had
was
one
like
TikTok go
34,000.
viral before. 34,000.
Something like that.
Wow. Well, you look up Stephen O. Peacock and see. I want to know. I think I had 68,000 likes on this like really stupid one I did with my buddies in college.
This was also like a long time ago where
Let's go. 64.7. How many
Two
views does it have?
TikTok
Can you see?
stars in the room at the same time.
505,000. Wow.
And this was back in like 2018 or something, or 2019.
It was 2020.
And there were not
Ding,
as many
ding,
people
ding,
on
ding,
TikTok at that time. Yeah, they
Genuinely.
just went and threw milk
It was
jugs
like-
off of a tall thing.
No, that one was my best one. That wasn't the one that popped off. The one that popped off was we were making fun of. It was like whenever Instagram came out with those. This is so unbelievably off subject, but it was when Instagram came out with those, like those things where it'd be like, it would be like characters in front of your face, and it'd be like, tell you what Disney character I am.
Yeah.
And it would stop, and then it was like your reaction whenever you were like Hercules or something.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh my gosh. And we were like making fun of how stupid it was that everybody was like posting that on their story.
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of people had a mutual experience of hating that.
Yeah.
And it was very like frat bro, like, you know, it could have been on like Barstool or something like
Right.
that. It was stupid. but-
Puberty would have reposted it if you
yeah,
posted
puberty.
it today.
But anyways,
Mom
back
and
to
Dad.
back to the guests.
Mom, Dad, where are you guys from?
I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee.
Go Grizz.
That's right. Not when I was growing up. They weren't a thing.
That's crazy.
I grew up in Gulfport, Mississippi.
What
coast?
was growing up like?
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Tell us about Memphis, Dad.
Memphis was it was a great place to grow up. We lived in East Memphis. My mom still lives in the same house I grew up in.
Crazy.
My father passed away just over a year and a half ago, I guess. So, but he also lived there. It was great. Went to private school growing up, and then went to Memphis City School in high school. So that was a bit of a culture shock. Went from a class of about 14 that I graduated 8th grade with to a homeroom of 30 and a freshman class of over 500
Wow.
and a high school of over 2,000. So it was a bit of a culture shock, but had a great group of friends. Went to Germantown Baptist. Shout out Germantown Baptist Church. Had a great group of guys that I became really close with, and yeah, it was great. Enjoyed it.
Love it.
What was Beale Street like back then?
You didn't go downtown.
You didn't go downtown back then, really?
No, you did not.
Even Beale Street.
Even
Like,
Beale Street.
wow. Okay, so
They would always block it off like they still do.
Yeah.
But you definitely did not go downtown. Not by yourself for sure.
huh?
But we had I think it was either, I went to a prom or something down there one time. And yeah, you made sure you were with a group of people,
Fascinating. Huh?
which has absolutely changed from when I grew up.
Yeah.
People go downtown now.
Yeah.
I feel like Memphis is one of those. Like Memphis is kind of funny because it's kind of famous. It's still famous for being dangerous.
Yeah,
I feel like
for
that's
sure.
definitely the vibe, even amongst like, because I think Ja Morant being their best player for their NBA team also helps with that because he literally like is into like pistols and guns and stuff like that.
You kind of have to be in Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually kind of nuts. I feel like there's some cities that are like, you see it like statistically, it's like super dangerous. Like Grand Rapids, Michigan, I like always see on like the dangerous list
Yeah.
of
For some
Birmingham.
reason.
But like, I think that the vibe of Birmingham, like I don't know if Birmingham is like known like for being super dangerous around. Maybe it is around the country or not. But Memphis, I feel like is known for
Well,
being
it's always
super
in
dangerous.
those top 10, top 20, most,
Yeah.
most murders, those kinds of statistics.
Yeah,
It typically ranks up there every year.
Yeah.
always. It's actually kind of crazy. But anyways, Gulfport, Mississippi. What's that like?
Gulfport, Mississippi. Have you ever been?
I've never been to the coast of Mississippi, I don't think.
Okay. Well, Mississippi is kind of strange because it's like 3 or 4 different distinct areas that are very, very different. So growing up on the coast is not at all like Brandon, Mississippi, where Myres grew up. But it's there's a lot of military bases down there, and so a very transient area, people in and out. And there's a lot of different cultures. There's shipping, so people coming in from all over the world. That was pretty cool. And beaches are great. You don't get in the water, so it's kind of lame. But beautiful beaches, great sand. Don't get in the water. And when I was growing up, it was only like 30, 45 minutes from New Orleans. So anytime there was a special occasion or whatever, you're going over there to have a nice restaurant or something like that. So I know a lot of people don't like New Orleans, or people, you either like hate it or you love it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of I love it because I just have fond memories growing up going over there.
It's only 30 or 45 minutes away from Gulfport.
Now it's much. Now it would take longer because of all the stoplights and more traffic and stuff. But when I was growing up, it was just hop, skip, and a jump.
Do you ever go to the jazz festival in New Orleans growing up?
We did all that sort of stuff.
Oh, I know that's like the thing. Like me and Blake were talking about that this morning. Him and his girlfriend went to the jazz festival like last week or 2 weeks ago. Like on vacation. Like that was like where they chose to go. So I know that that's like really popular still. There's like another, like, you know how New Orleans also has like some weird like voodoo vibes too?
Yeah.
There's I think it's literally called the Voodoo Fest. It's like in October. It's another big music festival that's popular.
Yeah.
So I've only been one time and I thought it was cool. It's like, it's very much so itself, which I think is like really cool. I kind of hate whenever you go to a city and it just tries to be agreeable. Like, I felt that way about Raleigh. I feel that way about like Indianapolis. Like you just go to the city and you're like, this is just a city, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like New Orleans is like undoubtedly like unique,
100%.
you know? It is really cool though.
Well, Gulfport was close enough that they even got out of school for Mardi Gras.
Oh yeah.
No
we were
way.
out
They
for
shut
3
down.
days. It was great. But growing up the coast was really interesting because I don't think it's in the Bible Belt the same way, you know, most of Mississippi you would say would be in the Bible Belt, but there weren't a lot of Christians down there, and if you were, most likely you were Catholic. It's a big Catholic area, but
Interesting.
so if you said you were a Christian, you were most likely a Christian. You know, a lot less cultural Christianity.
Yeah.
So that was like a big adjustment when I moved to Brandon, Mississippi. And everyone said they went to church. And I thought that meant, you know, that they
Sure.
followed Jesus. And I had really never seen hypocrisy before. So that was, I mean, you just were who you said you were on the
Yeah.
coast, you know.
Interesting. Yeah.
People were very real.
Yeah.
So
When did you move to Brandon before you went to college?
I did.
Oh, okay. When did you
In
move
the
to
middle
Brandon?
of my sophomore year of high school.
What was that like?
That was hard. That
Yeah.
was hard. When I first got there, I was like, oh my goodness, we've moved to Mayberry. I thought we did. Everybody knew everybody, and everybody's mom or dad owned a business, and kind of seemed surreal. But like I said, I had never seen hypocrisy before. So being introduced to cultural Christianity was kind of like shook me a little bit. But it is what it is, right?
Yeah. Tis what it is. So I don't think I knew that you lived in Brandon before you went. I mean, I knew that you obviously lived in Brandon whenever, like, because they came to your house there. But I don't think I knew that you lived there for like 2 or 3 years before you went to. Well, I guess I'm not going to steal your thunder, but you moved somewhere for college. Where did you go to college?
Samford University.
Come on.
The
Bow
best-
wow.
Go Bulldogs.
Oh, wow.
That is something interesting to me that's different about you and I. Like, my parents loved Samford because my uncle went there.
Yeah.
But like my dad didn't even, well, actually I take that back. I think my dad's sister like applied to go to school at Samford or something like that. But he never thought about going to Samford. He didn't know anything about it. And my mom, even though she was in Montgomery, she also like didn't think about going to Samford either. Like it wasn't even like a thought. But then your family, how did y'all find out about Samford?
Well, one of the things that was really interesting being so close to New Orleans is we were close to New Orleans Seminary. And so all of my pastors growing up were Samford grads. And so that's how I was introduced.
That was like the pipeline, I guess, was Samford to New Orleans
Samford
Seminary.
to New Orleans. Yep.
Oh, interesting.
So that group of guys that I was close with at Germantown Baptist,
Yeah.
the guy who was the best man in our wedding, his mom, who I've spent hours and hours over at their house every afternoon just about, is a Samford grad. So that's how I heard about it.
Oh, wow.
Howard College, actually.
Yes.
What was the word of mouth, like marketing of it, just as strong then as it is now? Like people just like, I feel like now people that went there or that went to Samford, they like recommend it like crazy. Like they think it's like amazing.
For me, it wasn't that. I mean, it wasn't like every time I saw her, she was saying something about Samford. That's just how I heard about it. But it wasn't like we were inundated with marketing, because back then it was just mail,
Yeah.
and so there weren't. I don't know of another person in Memphis that I came across that was a Samford grad. Like that was literally the only person that I knew about.
Wow.
I'm sure there were, but
So how did you get from that to going to Samford? Like why did
it's
you
the only
end up
place
going?
I applied.
Oh wow.
I did do a campus tour only because me and that same, his name's Mike. Shout out Mike Howard.
Shout out Mike.
He and I were joined at the hip. We were like brothers, and back in high school. And so we had some buddies that graduated a year ahead of us that went to Mississippi State. And so we went down there, but for me, it was just going because it was cool to have a fun trip with me and Mike to go to a campus. It wasn't a true campus visit. They didn't I didn't go on a tour. And, and I didn't even do that with Samford either. Like I didn't do a campus tour. Like I received, I sent information asking for, that I was interested, and they sent me a packet.
Yeah.
And then I just applied. That was the only place I applied to.
Wow. Was it just because you didn't know if you wanted to go to college or not? Or
No, I definitely knew I was going to go to college. And once after talking to Miss Beverly, his mom, Mike's mom, after talking to her and then getting the packet, I knew at that point I wanted to be a youth minister, and they had a religion major.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was what I was beeline. That was what I was going for.
Huh.
Mom, what did you want to do when you went into school?
Well, I wanted to be on the Supreme Court of the United States, of
Right.
course.
Wow.
So I was really big into debate in high school, and actually
Really big, meaning she was like highly competitive on the debate team and traveled the country debating people, including when she debated
What?
Harvard and won.
You debated against Harvard and beat them?
I did.
Wow, that doesn't surprise me.
She's
for
not
some
going to
reason.
tell you that, but I will.
I would have to.
Right.
My sister did debate in high school. I kind of forgot about that. Shout out Sally. She gets married on Friday.
She does.
Freaking crazy.
That's
on
amazing.
the same day as our anniversary.
No
Yes.
way. I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
Dude, I thought this was kind of sweet. Last night, Sam Fulkerson and Ellie got engaged. Shout out Sam and Ellie. And they got engaged on Ellie's parents' anniversary.
Oh, that's
Oh.
cute.
They're at the
That's
party.
sweet.
It was like it was super sweet.
Aw.
But that's kind
So,
of random.
How do you major in Supreme Court?
Exactly. Well, so I got a scholarship to be on the debate team at Samford University.
full ride?
Yeah, right.
Samford does a lot of those.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have so many of those.
Right. And I started studying for the LSAT my freshman year. Like, I was crazy. I was a go-getter. 4.0, all I did was study. But around...
Where was your go-to spot in the library?
Oh, I didn't do the library.
What? What did you do your dorm?
No, I didn't do my dorm.
What'd you do?
We would, go find a room that no one was in. I don't know.
Really?
Different
Like
vibes
a
back then.
classroom?
Like I said, the library has been redone since we were there. It was like
Interesting.
a dark basement. It was not the place to go when we were there. So we didn't go in the library.
Interesting. Okay, so you started studying for LSAT freshman year.
I really did, yes. And then around, I guess, my junior year, I just felt like the Lord was like, you know what, I'm not going to save people through the government. That's not how it works. And so
Wow.
I just felt like I
You're
was
really going to turn off some listeners right now with that one.
sorry. I decided to go to seminary at that point.
Oh, wow. Okay. So did you switch undergrad major?
I didn't. I paid my own way to Samford,
Okay.
and it wasn't as expensive back then, but it was still very expensive. And so I had a journalism scholarship, and that's really honestly why I majored in journalism.
Wow.
So kept my scholarship.
I don't know if I knew that.
Took
was
Harvard
why.
down. Did you
Well-
take Harvard down while you were still pre-law brain or when you were seminary brain?
That was when I wanted to go to law school.
Oh, man. I was like, that'd be so humiliating for Harvard people.
No.
For all of our Harvard listeners right
Yeah,
now,
we
they would
have a
just be
lot of
so
them.
upset.
Yeah.
Yes, actually. So I didn't beat Harvard in high school. In high school, I went to nationals, which is in Washington, D.C., and I did win.
Wow.
But I debated for Samford against Harvard.
Sorry,
And
I
won.
misspoke.
No, I'm just saying.
She still beat him.
I did.
Yeah, Harvard's a college, not a high school, Myres.
Oh. Right. What was family like growing up? Like, what were your parents like? What were your siblings like? Grandparents?
So, my dad specifically was older. Like, he was almost 40 when I was born. He was 39 the year I was born, and then turned 40 later on in that year. And then my mom is nine plus years younger than my dad. So she was just turned 30 when I was born. So I did have kind of an older dad, older parents to a certain degree. But they were wonderful. Like, they supported everything I did. I played just about every sport growing up. Always, whatever season it was, I was playing whatever sport was in season, except for football. Never played football. Always felt like I could be a kicker though. And so very supportive. Like I said, they supported everything that I wanted to be a part of. Close to my siblings, pretty close. You know, my brother was 7 years older than me, so it was a little different because as I grew up, he was moving off. You know, I remember going to his wedding, and I remember when his son was born. I was just turning 16 when my nephew was born, and so we weren't as close growing up because of that kind of gap. Because he would just hang out with different people, you know.
Sure.
But my sister's only 2 years older, so we were closer. So we were in high school together and all that kind of stuff. And so once my brother turned 19 or 20, somewhere around there, he moved off. Well, I guess it was a little bit older than that, but he moved off to Wyoming. So he worked for FedEx, still works for FedEx. He started working for Federal Express when he was 19.
It's wild.
And so he moved off to Wyoming. And so it was like you didn't see him because, I mean, that's a whole day to get there driving. Yeah. And then several years later, he moved to South Dakota. So for the longest time, he didn't live anywhere close. Like, it was always a 24-hour drive to go see him and my sister-in-law and my nephews. So we aren't the closest. I mean, just being honest. And my sister and I were we were brother and sister growing up in elementary school. You know, you didn't see eye to eye. But kind of when we got into high school, it was a little different because then it was kind of like, because she was same track, you know, she went to a small Christian, elementary school, and then we go to this Memphis City school, which is like culture shock. And so it was, it was almost like you like, we're on the same team here. So like, we got to find people that we love and we know that support us to go against this, Memphis City school thing that we're freaking out about. So we became pretty close in high school. She moved off to Wyoming after high school for a year to go to college out in Wyoming. So then we kind of weren't as close anymore because, again, back then there weren't, you're not FaceTiming and all that kind of stuff. And so, so we kind of did not become as close. And so over the years we've become, closer and closer and closer, trying to get closer and closer back to where we were, just simply because, as parents age and as parents pass away, all that's left is your siblings. Yeah. And so, Mom and I have always talked about how important family is. We've preached that y'all's soul lives, as you know, because, it blood runs thicker than water, So, I mean, you look back and you wish you were closer in certain times and wish things would be different in certain ways. But looking back, I enjoy my childhood. Like, I enjoyed growing up where I did. I had very supportive parents. We were in church our whole lives, and they've always supported us and always loved us. So,
what did your parents do?
My dad was worked for IBM for 28 years, back when computers were the size of buildings. When they had punch cards back in that day. And then IBM, I guess, got bought out or something. But back, I guess I was in junior high maybe, he got offered early retirement. So he retired from IBM on a Friday and started working for Federal Express the next Monday.
Yeah.
So he had a good weekend worth of a retirement. And then for Federal Express, my best memory, and I can be corrected, if anyone knows any different, but he was in charge of, at that point, he's always been in computers, right? Back from, when they were size of buildings, like I said. So when he started working for Federal Express, he was in charge of their emergency recovery systems. Or that was one of his projects. So if their system goes down, they send the recovery, to an offsite plant, offsite building, so that they can continue with business. And so he was kind of in charge of that kind of project. Yeah. It's my best understanding as a, someone who didn't know anything about it as a high schooler.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Where do your siblings live now?
My sister lives here in Birmingham.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And my brother moved back down because my sister-in-law is from just outside of Memphis, about an hour outside in Moscow, Tennessee.
Moscow.
And so they moved to Knoxville.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So everybody's back down south
a whole lot
now.
Closer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
That's so
24
much
hours
better.
to go see him now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is kind of wild. Like, your kids have, I don't know about Chloe. I'd be pretty surprised if Chloe got a wild hair and was like, I'm moving to New York. Like, I feel like she's just going to live in Birmingham too. But Ansley's living here. Myres is living, everybody's around. It's kind of crazy. My family's the same way.
Moved here.
That's why
Hey,
we're
we
sitting
were
on
all
this
waiting
couch
on
right
you.
now.
Hence,
But yeah, my family's the same way. Like, my brother is trying to move back. My oldest brother's trying to move back to Birmingham right now, and Sam loves it. I love it. Sally freaking moving to DC. But if it was her choice, she would definitely. She was the only one who would definitely live here.
yeah,
if she had the choice.
if she wasn't marrying a man who wants to work in politics, there's kind of only one place to live.
God needs
for
to
that.
come to Nick and tell him what he told you.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Well, ever since we graduated Samford, we talked about how we've always wanted to live here. So it just took us 25 years to get back.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. Mom, what was your family like growing up?
I had an amazing family growing up. So, grew up on the coast, like I said, and my dad was president of the running club.
Yeah, he was.
Big runner. Yeah. So every Saturday we're out running races, and I would go with him, and I'd be the person handing out the bananas or, whatever, volunteering, marking the trail so people know where to go. And so that was really fun. And he was always in ministry, and he was great to draw the kids in. And so he worked, volunteered at the Siemens Center. And what they did was they would reach out to the international people coming in on the big ships, like those massive ships that would come in. The people didn't always speak English, and he would meet them and take them to Walmart or wherever, help them get supplies and share the gospel with them. And so we did that once a week. I guess, we kind of had this routine, like Monday night, church visitation, Tuesday night, we do youth Bible study, Wednesday night, church. It was very scripted. So,
Yeah.
What is a church of visitation?
Visitation, somebody visits, they fill out this visitor card, and then you go see them and invite them to come back. Church visitation.
Wow.
Every Monday.
In person.
Yep. Knocking on the
That's
door.
Not an email or a phone call.
That's so
Not
sick.
a text message.
Yep. That's back
Dude,
in
I
the day.
literally saw a service the other day that was pitched to me as, because I have like a Redeemer email, and it was I'm trying to figure out how to explain it, but it was like a church membership platform, so you could you could gather everyone's information. It was like a directory, I guess, or something like that. Agency or a client management system.
CRM.
What is the art? What is that?
A customer relationship manager.
Yeah, there we go. A CRM. And if someone filled out, it was like a QR code. It would develop a QR code for your first time guest. Fill out your name, and then on Monday, it sends a text message, acting as if it's you, but it sends a text message to the person saying, "Hey, this is Myres from, the Germantown First Baptist Church. It was so awesome to have you this week. I work here as the relations pastor. Would love to get you involved in any way that you want to, or would love to, whatever, help as
Get
you
coffee, get lunch. Something.
No, not even that. Just give you information. And that was, I guess you could be like, "Look, we can get coffee," but I feel like if you actually wanted to get coffee with them, you probably wouldn't sign up for this absolutely terrible management system. But it was completely automated. Like it wasn't real at all.
So you're
was
saying
like a
I shouldn't trust any of these texts I've been getting when I visit churches in Birmingham?
I got one on Sunday afternoon.
I was gonna say, if you like, no hate to churches in Birmingham, but it wouldn't surprise me if the majority of them were using services like that, like these like
It's
huge
not all
churches.
bad. It can.
It's probably great for the right person in the right church
You
and
do
whatever
if you're
relativism, but
there is a way to systematize relationships, and it can feel callous, but it depends on your heart.
yeah,
Anyways, church.
But anyways, I heard about
visitations.
that the church visitation could be automated. But you did church visitation on Monday afternoons.
We did.
It was automated, but it was all in Jimmy's head.
That's right.
Yes, we did. My mom was a nursing professor.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so she was also a perpetual student. So she just would get degrees. That was what she did. So she got
What
her-
college did she work at?
On the coast, she worked for Gulf Coast Junior College.
Okay.
And then, so she had her master's that she got from USM. And then she got her doctorate from LSU. And that's when we moved to Brandon so that she could work for Ole Miss at their medical school.
Cool.
Yeah.
UMMC,
Yes.
and she helped start the nursing program there. Was that right?
She started the nurse practitioner program.
NP.
So having her doctorate wasn't enough. Then she went on to get her nurse practitioner. She was one of the first ever nurse practitioners. And so then she started the program to teach so that other people could become nurse practitioners.
Yeah.
She was one of the first ever nurse
Yes,
practitioners.
she was.
That's freaking cool.
In the state.
Oh wow.
In Mississippi.
Yeah. I mean, that was the world to me. So I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah. I gotta tell Gracie, she's finishing nurse practitioner school in August.
Yeah.
She did mental health.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes. And then that wasn't enough. So then she went on to get like some kind of counseling certification. So she also was a counselor.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew she did nurse practitioner, but I didn't know it was focused on mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating. Cool.
I didn't even know people like this might sound a little brash, but like what year was that?
When she received that?
Yeah. I mean, like, mental health degrees existed in, like, imagining this is the 80s.
Oh, well, so she finished her doctorate in
Like a
1989. Yeah.
Like, I knew that, like,
That's the year my
psychology
son was
existed, but I didn't know that, like, mental health. Like, that's, like, mental health is, like, I mean, that's pretty, like, 2010s
Forward-thinking,
or something. Yeah. I don't know. That's pretty wild. I kind of want to do more research on that than, like, when that, because I guess, like, colleges are the most progressive spaces for thought. So, but
Yeah.
anyways, that's cool. So you moved to Brandon when you were a sophomore because of your mom's job, not because of your dad's job.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. That's some new age movement right there too.
They were very progressive.
Yeah. And then my dad became a chaplain after that. He had been in like college ministry.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
BSU director.
Let's go.
Go on. So then you guys, this is jumping back forward again. College. You go to Samford.
Yep.
Bow wow. How did you meet?
You tell the story better.
This is like a famous story. Obviously, it's my family, but
Yeah. So, when God told me that I didn't need to be in politics, because that's not how I was going to save people, I just totally switched everything. And so this was my junior year. So major switch. I used to do like SGA, debate, I quit all that. And I decided to join the BSU choir. And so, I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it was pretty cool back then. It was 100-person choir, and we would,
Student led, student run,
yes,
BSU stands for
Baptist Student Union.
yes, back when Samford was Baptist.
yeah.
And we would travel around and sing at different churches, and we had like different teams. You would have like puppets and
Talk to us about. I mean, there had to be some like mischief going on. 100 college students traveling around, like even though it was like a Christian choir, like
the
there
traveling
had to be some
around
mischief
was
happening.
like on Sunday you would go on a Sunday night and sing, or Sunday morning sing at a church. In the fall, we would do a fall tour, which was just a weekend because you didn't have a week off in the fall to go somewhere like a fall break kind of thing. So you had like a long weekend where we would go to like Montgomery or somewhere that was close enough, like a couple hours away. But then after, I think it was after graduation, we would go on a week-long tour, and we went to like Boston, to Arlington. I don't even remember the others.
I don't know. Those are the only two.
But those are when you would rent the bus and go, on a long trip.
Okay.
So
Right. So I tried out for BSU choir, and
you had to try
you had
out.
to try
Oh, for
out.
sure.
It was kind of intimidating.
it
You
is
had-
an intimidating process.
You
You
had
just
to-
sing
Or
by
was.
yourself in
You
front
had
of a
to
bunch of people?
sing by yourself.
That would be the
So
worst. I
you would
would
you would only sing in front of the director and the pianist, the accompanist.
Yeah.
And then you would go to, so there were usually around 10 or 12 officers every year for, president, vice president on down to like social person, whatever.
Gotcha.
And so you would try out vocally, and then you would go and you would do like an interview with the rest of the officers. So they would sit in a semicircle, and then there'd be a chair in the middle of the semicircle where you would come and sit down, and they would pepper you with questions.
Wow.
So
They're like
I
recite
sit-
the prophets.
I sat in the middle and was peppered with questions, and he was.
I happened to be one of the officers.
So we didn't.
Oh, that's how you met?
We didn't really like meet, but I
Sure.
saw him. He saw me, so we were aware of who each other.
The radar
was.
started blipping.
Okay.
Right.
And so then
You're like, tell me about Proverbs 31.
yeah,
For people that don't know the Bible, that's the passage about the biblical wife.
yeah. So it was November 13th, and I was walking across campus right in front of Ben Brown, the most magical place on earth. And here comes Robert, and he walks up and he says,
Now, granted, we have not had a conversation yet at this point. So we want
Besides
to
you
make sure
peppering
that,
her with questions.
well, yeah, but I mean, there was a group of us, so it
Right.
wasn't
Sure.
like, anyway, so go ahead.
How much time has passed between the peppering of questions and this moment?
It would have been 2 months.
Okay.
Because September would have been the tryout, so that would be November, so 2 months later.
Cool.
yeah. So we're walking towards each other. I'm walking towards Reed. He's walking towards the UC.
Okay.
And he says, so, you want to get married? And I was like, yeah. And so I grabbed his arm and we started walking towards Reed Chapel.
And spent the next 12 hours together, roughly.
It was the first
Give or
time
take.
I had ever skipped classes, because I'm like the 4.0 nerd. I had never skipped a class.
What overcome you in that moment to say such a thing?
I have no idea. That's just what came out. That's just what came out.
So you after you saw her, was that just kind of like off the cuff in that moment, or were you thinking about her after you met her? Or after you saw her in the tryout thing?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, she again, like we're in the choir together, so we see each other. We never have a conversation because.
Oh, okay. So you had done practices and stuff.
Oh yeah,
the same.
we had a weekly practice. Where
Gotcha.
all of us would get together and sit in your section.
Y'all definitely you side-eyed her. She was looking back at you.
I mean, you
side-eyed
sat
him.
by
He's like,
section.
Yeah,
And I was in the altos.
yeah.
He was
So
not.
I mean,
He
like
was
I
not
said,
at
the
all.
radar was blipping.
Sure,
Right.
And so
So there was a little bit, there was the oven was preheating a little
Absolutely.
bit before that moment.
for sure.
That's kind of electric. So you were just walking by her and you were like, now's my time.
Yeah.
Let's
Shoot your shot, man.
let's shoot the most ultimate shot. And then were
And
you
now, and now it's part of Samford lore.
Yeah.
honestly, a lot of this is so people are gonna make fun of me for saying this. I feel like that happens in Samford a lot though. Like people will go meet someone and they'll go back and tell their friends I think I just met my husband, or I think I just met my wife,
Yeah.
or they'll say hey to a girl and walk away and tell their buddies that girl's gonna be my wife. And to be so real, I've probably sat with more dudes who have said something like that, and that person is not their wife. But it does.
But you
happen
just
sometimes.
keep shooting your
I
shot,
was
and
going to
then
say, if you say it every time, eventually
Yeah.
it's going to work.
right.
Yeah, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
It's funny. It is funny how many of our friends rehearsal dinners we've been at, where the girl and her best friend will be the best friend will get up and be like, I remember when she texted me and was like, I think I just met my husband. That does happen. That's funny.
So what year y'all are juniors when that happened?
I was a sophomore. She
I
was a junior.
Wow, let's freaking go.
Beast.
Come on. More girl power here. I love it. Just noticing a trend.
So then,
And
what
then-
was the timeline after that? Were y'all like officially dating day one?
What was your first date? Like, did you take her out that night?
We went. I don't remember where we went, but we talked. Huh?
She said,
I know where we went that night, but we went to go talk, and we talked for a long time, and then we decided that we wanted to go eat.
Okay.
And so our first date was at Olive Garden over by the Galleria.
Yes.
Don't hate.
Don't hate.
Me and Myres have eaten there
Olive
together
Garden
before.
was
Is
good.
it still open? Like, I don't even know if it's
Yeah.
still open over there.
Yeah, it is.
To
Me
be
and
fair,
Myres and
Birmingham
Gracie ate
didn't
there.
have this
Yeah.
cool
There was
food
no
scene
food
back
scene.
then.
That's right.
Well, I don't know
Right.
what you're talking about. You went to Olive Garden at the Galleria. It's a pretty freaking cool
Like,
food scene.
when we were at Samford, you didn't go north of 5 Points. Like,
Yeah.
5 Points was about where you went. And now it's like completely different. But anyway, so yeah, then we went to Olive Garden for our first meal.
That's so freaking sick. So you went to Olive Garden, bottomless bowls?
Absolutely.
Of course.
Everything.
So that's where you went like that day? Like,
Absolutely.
You went to
That
Olive-
night. Yeah.
Wow. So after, like, you're sitting there, Gelaina, and, he's like, wow, this guy asked me to marry him. We're hanging out. It's been 6 hours. Now he's like, I'm in the car with him. We're going to Olive Garden. Like, what's going through your mind? Are you like, oh my gosh? Like, had you dated many guys at Samford, or was this like a whole new experience? You said it was the first time you ever skipped class. So
It was.
that's to be somewhat new, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I hate to get into my dating history, but I came to Samford with a boyfriend. And then when we broke up, I was like, I am not going to date another person until it's who I'm going to marry.
Mm.
And I didn't.
Wow.
I told everybody no. I got asked out a good bit.
Wow.
Yeah, I said no.
What
And
was the
then-
timeline on you guys?
So that was 1995. And then we got engaged her senior year of 97, spring of 97. So right before she graduated, we got engaged and got married 2 weeks after I graduated, 98.
So we all engaged for like
A year?
A year and a couple months.
yeah. Cool. And then what happened?
You.
So
Wait, where'd y'all get married at? Did y'all get married at Reed?
no, we got married in Brandon.
In Brandon, Mississippi.
And then we lived here for another 5-6 months, something like that. And then we applied to Southwestern Seminary in Fort Worth. So we moved to Dallas, or actually Segoville. For those of you in Dallas fans, if you know, even people from Dallas, I always ask them if they've heard of Segoville, and more often than not, they haven't. But we were on staff at a church there while we were both going to seminary. And then within about a year, we moved to Tampa, which is where Myres came along. And we were in Tampa for about a year, and then we moved to Mississippi. So that was kind of the quick timeline of us getting to Mississippi post Samford.
Why'd you move to Mississippi?
Well, because that's where the job was, and it was a lot closer to home. So when Myres was born, he was diagnosed, as I think y'all have shared, with cystic fibrosis. And Tampa was not close to Memphis or Brandon, Mississippi.
Yep.
And so we knew that we needed some family support for the journey ahead. And so I was working for Lifeway Christian Stores at the time, and they graciously moved us to Jackson, Mississippi, to the store up there. And so that's how we got to Mississippi.
We've
Wow.
talked about doing a whole CF episode, but I kind of feel like we should just like talk about it
Dude, I love it.
now. You think?
Sounds natural. I mean, you're with two people who probably can
They
riff
know my
with you.
story better.
I can riff.
than I do.
I can
We
riff
have
more
definitely
than
lived a lot of that.
a lot
Yeah.
of other people, but I'm probably, if you had to like rank me in your life for the people that could riff about CF, all like to the most ability, to the highest ability, where would I rank? Would I be S tier, or do you think I would be A tier, or do you think I would be B tier?
Probably A tier.
Let's go.
S tier is like my parents and Claire
And
my
like
sisters.
people that have it.
I don't really know any people who have it, and I guess like my granny. I don't know. Not that many other people outside of that, I think. And then it'd be you.
Who do you think knows more, me or Claire?
Claire.
That's bullcrap.
She's my wife, and she's a medical
I was
person.
going to say, and she's a medical
I could take
professional.
Claire. I could take Claire all day long.
I don't even know how to measure that. But
Maybe y'all should have
either.
a showdown.
She would. But
who knows more
to be
about
so
Myres
fair,
CF?
to be so fair, it's pretty unfair considering she's in PA school. 'Cause
Right.
She understands how like the lungs work.
Right. That's what I'm saying. She's a
Maybe I
medical
could
person.
come up with the questions and I could drill the three of you and see who knows the most.
Claire would be
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, I learned that in class." I'm like, "That's
Yeah.
not fair."
Claire might beat me.
You're only allowed to answer.
Really?
You'd have to ask only questions, and then we could only measure it based on questions that she didn't learn in class. Just like
Just what
organic
she knew.
Myres stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so I was. When was I diagnosed?
You were 4 months old.
Okay. 'Cause
July 4th, around that
Took him
holiday.
that long to find out for real. Because
For real.
you're like born with cystic fibrosis, right?
yeah, it's
100%.
genetic.
Yeah. It's interesting. It started my kind of strange relationship with doctors when you have to remember that my mom was in the medical community, and so
A pioneer, if you will.
exactly, yeah. So I grew up very, very medical, and then Myres came along, and I was used to, you just do whatever the doctor said, and it was my first time to really just be failed by doctors, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so he was born, and I knew something was wrong immediately because he cried 24 hours a day, and you couldn't lay him down. Like, I had to hold him up when he slept, so I would like sleep in a chair or like.
She slept in a recliner basically for those 4 months.
Yeah, lean him against me because if you laid him down, it was just so painful. I think he would cry and throw up, and it wasn't good. And so I started taking him to the doctor, and they were like, "Oh, babies cry. That's what they do.
You're a new parent. You just got to get used to it.
Yeah, you just don't know what you're talking about." And so we were in Florida.
Literally.
Yeah, and there was I guess a large population of like Indian doctors, and sometimes there was like language trouble. So I literally got the phone book out, and I was going through pediatricians, and Tampa's a pretty big area, so I had quite a few to choose from, and I was looking for an American name, someone that I could understand and that could understand me, and we found one. It was like Smith. I don't remember his first name.
I don't either.
It was like Bob Smith or something. We looked for like the most American name that we could find. And we went to him and we're like, something is wrong. And he still didn't really believe us.
Well, and a little background on him. I think he had been practicing for 30 years maybe.
Yeah.
And he had one case.
No, he had never
And
had a
none.
case.
Okay. He had never
We were
even had
his
a case
first.
for cystic fibrosis.
But we didn't know
But
what
we
it
didn't know what
was
was going on at
yeah,
that point.
I just wanted someone who could understand me and I could understand what they were saying.
Yeah.
And so, of course, he talked down to me, same as everyone else. But I was like, well, he weighs 8 pounds, but he was 9 pounds when he was born, and he's 4 months old. This seems like there could be a problem.
Right.
And they're like, oh, they probably got the birth weight wrong at the hospital. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And so finally, I started taking Myres to the doctor every day so that they would listen. So I literally took him to the pediatrician every day.
Also, as I'm becoming the age where my friends have kids and stuff,
Yes.
like moms just know stuff, Like if I think about Ibby with Elliot,
Yeah.
like there's just this like connection that I can almost physically feel with her and Elliot, where I'm like, she knows what's going on,
Yeah.
100%.
You should listen to moms.
Yeah.
You should, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Doctors don't really like this. I don't know. I don't know how to formulate a thought on that, actually. Doctors just sometimes, it's just like really strange because it's the ultimate flex job. And for smart people, it's like the ultimate like feeble pride, proud thing to do of like, look at me kind of thing. And I'm like, it is so fascinating how doctors and I'm talking about my buddies who are in medical school, and they're typically like great guys, and they just talk about the contrast between them and like the smartest people in their classes. And the smartest people in their classes are probably going to be like absolute jerks. And then it makes more sense because there is like, the book smart versus like street smart like thing. You rarely get people that are both. And then also it's like just weird, it's so hard to get in with a doctor that's good too, because like their books fill up. So it's like, it's kind of this, it's just one of those like areas of the American medical system where it's just like kind of strange,
So you start taking me to the doctor
every single day.
every day.
I took him every day so that they could
Same doctor or different?
No, same doctor.
Same doctor.
So
Bob
that they-
Smith?
Yeah.
Wow.
Old Bob.
So that they could
Whatever
see
his name
that
was.
you weren't gaining weight because
Yeah.
they didn't believe me and they doubted the medical records. And so I'm like, well, let's document this. And so
Yeah.
we went in and weighed you every day. And so they saw that you weren't gaining and that you were losing, And so then, of course, they blamed it on my milk. And so I went through all kind of testing, figure that out. And that wasn't it. And still, Bob just kept telling me, oh, he's fine, baby's cry. Never, ever giving any indication that he thought that something could actually be wrong. Always talking down. And
Like,
then,
is doing a test for like cystic fibrosis, is that like a crazy thing, or is it just like, could you just take his blood
it's
work?
not crazy, but he didn't know. He didn't think of CF. And, of course, I didn't know to think of CF. It's genetic, and no one in our family had it.
Huh.
So
It's also not a common disease.
it's the most common. 1 out of every 20 people are carriers, but yeah, it's not that common. So, it was July 4th, and we went down to a little parade, and he was out there, and he had like this old fire truck, and he was in the parade, and he saw us, and he was like, what are you doing here? Why do you have him here? But he had always acted like there was no problem whatsoever, talked down to me. And then when he saw us out, he was like, why are you here? And it was the first time he kind of acknowledged that something was wrong, or that he thought something was wrong. And so after that, he put us in the hospital. I was like, okay, we're going to figure this out. And so we went in the hospital and had all sorts
That is so strange what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so in the doctor's office, up until this point, he kind of acted like nothing was wrong. And then he saw you at a parade?
At a parade, and was like,
How
why
random
are you
is
out
that?
here?
So we lived in Lutz, which is north of Tampa. It's a small community, or at least it was back then. I don't know how big it is now. And so there was like this town square-ish kind of thing, where they would do the July 4th parade, or whenever there was an event, that's where it would be. And this guy collected like antique fire trucks or something, and so he would drive one of his fire trucks in the parade every year. And so so we were like, let's just, like, we could basically walk there, or it wasn't far, so we were like, well, let's just get out because it's July 4th. And so that's
And then he
why
was
we were
like,
there.
oh my gosh, like, why do you have him out? Like, he's
Right.
at risk.
Right.
And you were
Exactly.
like, you're probably like, what the heck are you talking about, man?
was exactly like
Okay,
that.
interesting. So then he puts you in the ER. That's crazy.
He put us in the hospital to try to figure out what's wrong. And we were there, I want to say maybe a weekend.
Yeah, something like that.
And no one ever came to tell us that Myres had CF. It was really interesting. I was there by myself, and like a CNA came in to change the sheets on the bed. And she was like, oh, so I hear your son has CF. Black people don't get that. That's what she said. And I was like, oh, really?
Was she a black woman?
She was. And I was like, oh, okay. And she was talking to me like I knew. And so I just kind of went along with it and pretended that I knew, which I didn't. And so after she walked out, after she changed the sheets, I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I think Myres has CF. Can you remind me what that is? Because I didn't really remember. And so that's how I learned. No doctor came in and told me.
Did one ever come?
No, that's how I found out. That was it. It was the strangest thing.
That's nuts.
Did you go like talk to the person that was like your doctor like after that?
I did, yeah. And
Bob Smith?
Bob
Old
Smith.
Bob.
Yeah, it kind of really made me mad because the first thing he did, Myres, was kiss you. And I wanted to hit him because people with cystic fibrosis can't absorb the salt back into their skin. And so back in the old days, the way a doctor would know if someone had CF was if they tasted salty. And he kissed you.
And that's how we found out that he had cystic fibrosis.
I mean, we knew from the test, but that was his reaction.
So at
to
that
it.
time, the test that they would run, that was the quintessential test, was a sweat test, because it tests the sodium, the salt content as you
Okay.
sweat it out.
It's actually still how they do it.
Is it okay? So, you could test the blood and see that they're a carrier, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have it, because at that point, I mean, they're still finding out mutations of the gene.
Sure.
So one of the genes that he has at that point when he was born had not been discovered yet. So he would have tested as a carrier on a blood test, when in reality he has both sets of the genes to have the disease.
Mm. So I get diagnosed.
Yep.
So then I guess you have to figure out like a treatment plan, because
Do you I just hate Bob Smith right now, like so much. Listening to this story, I'd be like, I don't know what your relationship, like capital with him is at this point, but I'm like, if I've been going to the doctor with my, my like infant son for a month, I'd be like, dog, like, are you serious right now? Like I don't know if can he be? I don't know. Did he apologize?
Oh no, he didn't apologize. I've wrestled with this a lot, and there's much worse things that have come in the future that doctors have done. And so
This is just the beginning.
I've had to deal with a lot of forgiveness, but honestly, I think on a spiritual level, I think the Lord was trying to show me that you don't look to doctors, just like we don't look to the government for our salvation. You don't look to a doctor either. And I think it would have been very easy for me as a mom growing up, very medical, to just put all my hope in medicine and all my hope in whatever the doctor said. And I really think that the Lord didn't want me to do that.
That is profound. Okay. I love that you just kind of Bible slapped me there for being mad at Bob Smith, but you're right, though.
No. I'm just saying, there's
you
so much
God
worse.
also Bible slapped you too.
It gets worse.
Yeah. Doctors did so many more worse things than that.
Okay,
on the tiers of doctors, he's not at the top.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you? So now you're at 4 months, or did this process start at 4? Like, how old is Myres at this point?
He was 4 months.
He's 4
July
months old.
4th of 2000, I was 3 months
Almost
old,
4.
4 months
Yeah.
old, because I was born in March.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's 4 months. So
Yeah. So, so 3.
okay,
4,
so after
5,
you figure all
6.
this out, what is next in that situation?
Right. So they referred us to a CF clinic in the area. And it was kind of a unique CF clinic because it wasn't associated with the American.
It was a private one, which
private.
is at that point for us was our understanding was that was pretty rare to
Fascinating.
have a private pulmonology clinic
Yeah.
for CF.
And it seemed like they kind of went the way of the Australians, did things a little differently at that clinic than what they do at most CF clinics.
And for us people that don't know what that means, is Australians is it just like different tradition, like different practices and stuff like that, or?
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And also for pulmonary, that just means like a lung doctor.
Lungs.
Yeah, okay.
So, it's a Caucasian disease. And so when you think about areas of the country that might have a lot of CF, it's going to be places that have a lot of white people. you
Gotcha.
know, like Britain and Australia. And
Gotcha.
America, yeah.
Huh. Okay, also, 15 seconds, what is cystic fibrosis? I don't know if we've said that yet.
It's a genetic disease, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. This is my understanding of it.
You know what it is.
So my body
hilarious.
doesn't appropriately absorb water and circulate it throughout my body. And so then there are a bunch of ancillary side effects that happen because of that.
Secondary is what ancillary means.
Yeah, sorry. There are side effects to that, which are so all your airways have like a lubrication of mucus so that you can breathe, so that you can swallow, all this kind of stuff. And so your body uses water to thin that mucus so that it stays
I
as
see.
like a lubricant as opposed to like clumping up like when
Yeah.
you're sick and you have boogers or whatever. So because my body doesn't appropriately process and distribute water throughout my body, mucus tends to get thicker and stickier, and then my pancreas doesn't get what it needs in order to create enough enzymes to process fatty and protein-filled foods.
Gotcha.
So the primary two side effects I have are that my lungs tend to get filled with mucus, so I have to do things to like get the mucus out, like breathing treatments every day, or I do a lot of running, cardio exercise, and then I have to take pancreatic enzymes whenever I eat.
Does
to
every
help.
CF patient have to do the enzymes thing, or is that you?
It varies. There's
I was probably 90% do.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
and there are also like varying levels of CF. Like for some people, it's more like asthma. Like it's kind of just
Sure.
maybe they have to take enzymes, maybe they don't. And
I was going to say, you can think of it like autism as far as like a spectrum.
Yeah.
You know,
Gotcha.
there's a spectrum of people that have autism, you know, from Asperger's kind of on one end to, you know, they can function.
nonverbal. Yeah,
It's the same with CF. It presents itself differently in every patient. So there's
Yeah.
a spectrum of
Gotcha.
what's going to be
see.
affected and how
Okay.
severe it is.
yeah. So I have CF.
Okay,
So then
cool.
it takes a long time to develop a treatment plan. I assume was the next step with me.
Right. The next step, they brought us in and kind of explained to us, did lots of helping us understand what it was. They gave me this whole set of medical books that I read through. That was pretty cool. They did a lot of training and helping us understand and setting us up with all the medicines. And so they probably had you on like, I don't know, 12, 15 medicines right after you were diagnosed.
Which is crazy at 6 months old.
Right, right. So you could see that over time we decided to do things differently. But in the beginning, we just did whatever they said. So
What kind of medicines were they putting me on?
let's see. You were on stuff for reflux that was supposed to help your enzymes work better, actually, to keep the acid down so that more of the enzymes were able to help you process your food. Like Flonase and allergy type things to help with sinuses and stuff like that. The albuterol, pulmozyme, those are the breathing treatments. Yeah.
I know that you could tell that I was having trouble digesting food because I would have like diarrhea and stuff like that,
Because you weren't gaining weight.
and because I wasn't gaining weight. Could you tell with my lungs?
No.
Okay. Because I was wondering, like, at that young, would I have a cough or, like, would I, like, have shortness of breath or something?
No, you didn't have any type
Okay.
of issues.
So, how long were we in Tampa before?
We moved in November.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, was the move mostly just thinking I'm going to have to take care of this kid a lot, or was there anything else that kind of...
I didn't really want to move, to be quite honest. But
Yeah.
they were, Lifeway was always sending Dad out of town to go
Right.
open new stores, and he'd be gone for 2 weeks at a time, which is
So
why he was gone when you were in the
I
hospital.
was managing the Tampa store.
Mhm.
So I was the head guy at the Tampa store, which is why I wasn't when the nurse came in, like I wasn't there because I had responsibilities at work.
I think you were in Orlando.
I think I was.
They were sending him off to start new stores and
Yeah.
stuff. And we had just moved there, and we didn't know anyone. And so they decided to move us. Yeah.
Is there any reason y'all moved to Tampa, or was it just because Lifeway had a job there?
So when I interviewed and got a management position, we were in Dallas, you know, obviously.
Yeah.
And so all of the Dallas area, Fort Worth, all of the managers of all those stores would meet up and have like a weekly lunch or something, let's say.
Okay.
And, you know, how's it going in your store? What's working? What's not? You know, that whole thing.
Yeah.
So I went to one of those after I was hired, and every one of them to a T was like, no matter what, when they offer you your first store, you say yes. Doesn't matter where it is. It could be
okay.
Salt Lake City. You say yes. And I was like, okay. Like I was 22. Like,
Sure.
what do I know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. And so within a month, I had a regional director fly into Dallas and was like, hey, we want you to open the Brandon, Florida store. It was going to be a brand new store. And I was like, Okay.
rock and roll.
Like that's what I'm supposed to do. Yes. Because I say yes to the first one. Well, within another couple of weeks, things changed. And so they were like, well, because Brandon, Florida is not 20 minutes outside of Tampa.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like a suburb, you know?
Yeah.
And so, so then the Southeast Regional Director came to town and was talking to me, and he was like, hey, instead of Brandon, we want you to go ahead and run. Brandon was going to be a new store. Instead of Brandon, Florida, we want you to manage the Tampa store, because the Tampa manager was moving, I think, to Murfreesboro to open that store or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
And so things changed in the like week or two following to where it was like, hey, we need you to go to Tampa. You need to fly down. Y'all need to find a house, and we need to make this happen as soon as possible.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's kind of how Tampa happened.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
I will
So-
say that when we got married, I said 3 things. I can only remember 2 of them. I was
Yeah.
like, I will never drive a minivan, and I will not live in Mississippi.
Wow.
I did not want.
She hasn't driven a minivan.
Made it all the way through, having all the kids in no minivan.
No minivan.
Hey, now 2 of them are true. You don't live in Mississippi, so
Yeah, finally.
finally back in Birmingham.
So you moved to Birmingham, or no, to Brandon, Mississippi.
Yes.
How long until I'm just a normal kid?
Well, so you got a lot better immediately. As soon as you were on medicine, things were drastically better.
Yeah.
But then when we moved, we went to kind of more of the American CF clinic. And so
Which was the only one in the state.
Yeah.
The only one in the state was at where her mom worked at UMC.
Yeah.
And so
they changed everything.
everyone from the state, any pulmonary problems, came to there,
Right.
pediatric wise.
Children's Hospital there. So they changed everything about the way they did things. They changed all of it, which I kind of agreed. I agreed with some of the things that they did in Mississippi. Like, for example, the ones in Tampa, they wanted you on antibiotics just prophylactically and just for no reason. You weren't even growing anything, and they just wanted you on antibiotics all the time. And they wanted to bring you in annually for 2 weeks to do what they called a tune-up, even if you didn't need it. And I really never thought you should be on antibiotics if you weren't struggling with an infection. That just didn't seem right to me. And so I was kind of glad that we left that idea. But they changed all the meds. And so it took a couple months, but then we started having problems. So you started having like bloody diarrhea. And so again, we knew something was wrong. And so took him in, they did some testing and some imaging and went to see this doctor, and he was like, we are going to figure out what's wrong. And I was like, thank you, Lord. Like, he's actually listening to me, you know? And so he agreed, we're going to figure this out. And so then I don't know what happened, but the next time we went in, he was like, oh, he's fine. There's nothing wrong. I was like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean there's nothing wrong? He's bleeding. You know,
Yeah, nothing's changed.
there's, you know, something, he changed his tune. And retrospectively, I think they were very worried that they were going to get sued because something was wrong, and I think it was their fault. And so I went to the pediatrician, who was a new pediatrician, and she still had a lot of fight in her, and she really wanted to get to the bottom of it. And so she was like, okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to put you in the hospital, but I'm going to put you in under me and not under the specialist, because if I put you in under like a GI specialty or CF, then they can send you home. And so I'm going to put you in under me, and then I have control, and they can't send you home.
Yeah.
So basically, we're going to put you in the hospital indefinitely until they will agree to figure out what's wrong. And then playing the system, you know, she wrote an order, you know, for GI to come by, and, you know, for the CF group to come by. So that'd be pulmonary and GI. And so they had to come by. And so that's how we ended up almost being in the hospital for like a year and a half straight, was because she was being stubborn with us. And I think she saved her life, honestly.
Yeah.
Our longest stint was almost 2 months
Wow.
straight. They thought that
It wa- it was
They thought that
60-something
Gelaina
days, yeah.
worked on floor 4 in Children's Hospital.
Everyone
Like, oh,
thought
you
it.
work on 4C, don't you? Because they saw her all the time.
I'd be like, no, I just live there. So, yeah, we were in like for several months, then we'd go home for a few days or for a week, and then something would happen, we'd be back in again. And my mom worked there. We've already visited that topic. And
Yeah.
so she would get me into the medical school library. And so I would read medical books and try to figure out what was wrong because the doctors weren't doing it. And I found what was wrong. It was fibrosing colonopathy, and I had all the pictures and all the testing, and I found it in the book, and it looked exactly the same. And I'm like, okay, guys, I've figured it out. This is what it is.
She had remembered some of the imaging that he had done. And then when she saw it in the medical journal or medical book, she saw the imaging in the book of what it would look like and made the connection instead of the GI doctor who does it for a living.
Yeah.
Right. But fibrosing colonopathy is caused from too many enzymes. And so I told them that. And they were like, nope, the dose is fine. And so they would check the dose and they'd tell me, oh, it's fine. He's on the right dose. And I'm like, oh, I feel like every time I feed him, I have to give him these enzymes. And I think this is what's doing it to him. And they just kept saying, nope, that's not it. Were you going to say something?
I was saying, put your microphone closer.
I feel like that's like, I don't know, but also I'm sitting here knowing like stuff about cystic fibrosis, and so maybe this is like an oversimplification of this, but it's like there's two things wrong in CF, like digestion and lungs, and it's not his lungs because it's bloody diarrhea. It's like I'm just thinking like at a simple like engineering level, it's like one tube is digestion, one tube is air. It's
Right.
not the air tube, so it has to be something to, and it's like you're only affecting one factor.
Right. Well, they
With that,
tried
it's
to
like-
make it be celiacs, and they tried to say it was a lot of different
They
things.
always were saying, "Oh, there's an underlying issue that's causing all this." That
doesn't
was
make
that
any
was their
sense why
tune that they would play over and over and over.
because they didn't want to get sued.
And then they would test for all these things, and they would all come back negative.
Wait, what? So did you ever just like do it yourself and just make him not take the enzymes and see what happened?
No, because I mean, I experienced what it was like when he didn't have enzymes when he was a
Oh,
baby, and he'd
okay.
lose weight, and yeah, and so we actually had one of the doctors just come to me and say, "Just take him home and let him die. Just
Literally.
let him die at home."
There's nothing else we can do for him. Why don't you just take him home? He'll be more comfortable there.
Sheesh.
And Gelaina's bawling, just begging her to do something.
I literally got on my knees and was crying and begging her to do something, literally.
Goodness gracious.
So Bob Smith's looking real good right now.
As I said, Bob's not at the top.
Yeah. So then,
So she basically diagnoses him with fibrosing colonopathy.
how do you convince the doctor that you're right?
That's really interesting. Well, I couldn't. And so it continued on until it got so bad that they decided to do a resection of a portion of your colon. And so they decided to put you on complete gut rest and see if that area could heal. And so they went in and they gave you an ileostomy. Do you know what that is?
No.
You take the ilia and you pull it out into the open and kind of sort of close it up. So actually the, I don't know the proper term, the ilia is protruding out. Okay. So it's kind of like someone who had a bag, you
Okay.
know, sort of like that, but up a little higher. And so then they put you on TPN, which is total perennial nutrition. So you got all your nutrition through an IV. And that way you could go on complete gut rest and see if we could let that heal. So the plan was to do that for 6 months.
So have y'all heard of a PICC line? So Myres got a PICC line so that he could have TPN to have the nutrition.
Oh, interesting.
Which is what I think that's what this scar right here on my chest is.
It is.
Yes.
That's what it is.
If you ever see me and you want to know what my scars are from, here we go.
Yeah. We could do a scar tour. So we did TPN and it was going pretty good for a little while, and then
And that's what this smaller scar is right here, the TPN.
that
Or no,
the
the TPN's this the
That's the ileostomy.
Yeah.
That's right. That's your ileostomy. So then we went home. Things were going okay, but you had a pole. You remember the pole?
Yep.
How old were you at this point?
A little over a year.
I was going to
Yeah.
say a year
Oh,
and a
okay.
half.
I had the pole for many years after that.
Yes.
So that's why she said that.
Yes.
I want to give a shout out real quick to Granny, my mom, because she made him like hospital gowns. We were in the hospital so much for that period of time that she literally made hospital gowns for him so that we didn't have to wear those, so that he
Wow.
had like Veggie Tales, St. Louis Cardinals,
Bob
like
the Builder.
Bob the Builder.
He was so stylish.
He was.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out Joyce Allen.
Shout out.
Yeah. I mean, we did have
That's great.
fun. Like, it wasn't all like, I mean, we had fun.
Yeah.
And in the hospital. It was good times.
My first memory of my life was Granny pushing me in a wheelchair down a hallway to the playroom
Oh yeah.
in Mississippi. That's the first thing I
In the
remember about my
hospital. I
life.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, your first solid food was a cupcake down in that, and I about like cried and celebrated that
Yeah.
you actually would eat because you would refuse to eat.
Yeah.
It hurt.
Interesting.
But anyway, so we took you home, and you were supposed to be on gut rest, TPN, all's going to go well, but you got an infection and you became septic. So back to the hospital we went. You had 106 fever. We couldn't make it break. Packed you in ice, like it was crazy. So many things happened. I'm sure we're missing several, but anyway, they decided to give you, let's see, it's not vancomycin. What's it called?
Amphotericin.
Amphotericin. Thank you.
The nickname is Amphoterrible.
Yeah. So it's kind of like chemo. It's really bad, very difficult on your system, and they're supposed to pre-medicate with Benadryl and Tylenol, and
Back and forth.
they did not do that. And
Correct.
they gave him the wrong dose. And so, this wasn't that time. There was another time when he turned blue. Wrong
Yeah,
time.
that's a different time.
Okay. So he is septic. Then they gave
What does
him,
septic mean?
he has an infection which has gone to his blood.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
Bad.
you can die.
Not
Like
good.
all of your organs
bad.
are in danger because your bloodstream is taking this
Yeah.
infection to every area. We had to test the brain, the eyes, every organ had to be tested to see if the infection had gone there. And so he goes to ICU because they gave him too high of a dose of amphotericin and didn't pre-medicate. And so we spent a good
Blood pressure bottoms out.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible.
It was awful.
So it was like we're just like the poster child for medical accidents. You know, it's like the number 2 killer in America or whatever is like doctor error. We like every time they tried to do anything, there was an error.
Yeah.
Goodness.
And so spent a good bit of time in ICU with that one. Came back out. There were like lots of little surgeries here and there, and they would like they would make you NPO, which means you can't have anything to eat or drink, but then they would forget to give you an IV with fluids. And so then your sugars would drop, and then you would start having seizures, and then we were going back to the ICU. And so it was just one error after another. But finally, we made it to the 6 months where they're going to go in, they're going to do this big surgery, and they're going to put you back together, right? And so in the middle of the surgery, it's supposed to be like an 8-hour surgery, but after 6 hours, they came out and they were like, look, his colon is hard, it's black, it's fibrosed, like,
Not pliable.
right. We just think that it should come out
The
altogether.
whole- the whole colon.
The whole colon. Like,
Oh.
so this gut rest was supposed to make everything better, but they went in to look at it and it was black and fibrosed and completely not better. And so they said, but when we send it off to the
Pathology.
lab, yeah, it comes back normal tissue. And so what do you want us to do? And I was like, that's a miracle. Praise Jesus. We're going to leave it in and we're just going to see what God's done, you know, and see what happens.
Because I think for us also, like, worst case scenario is it doesn't work and we just go back in and take it out. So
Sure.
if there's a chance that it would work,
Yeah.
by all means, let's see if it'll work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so we didn't take it out. We left it in, and then it wasn't perfect.
Took out 2/3 of
Yeah,
the colon.
just
But
not the whole thing.
Not the whole, yeah.
Yeah, not the whole thing. They took out some in the beginning, and then we did gut rest to see if they were going to need to take out any more. And so the way that we confirmed that it was fibrosing colonopathy was not us, but it came back from the lab that that's what it was.
Right.
And
Okay.
so then they couldn't deny it anymore.
And they couldn't say there was an underlying issue.
Although they
because-
could question the medical records.
I mean, they could,
guess
but
they
the
could.
pathologist said.
Did you
that
say
that's what
up
it
yours?
was.
Please tell me you said up yours. Tell me at some point you said up yours.
I said a lot of things. Trust me. I said a lot of things.
Oh my gosh, dude! I would just.
But
Freaking,
over and over, I just felt the Lord telling me that I needed to forgive.
yeah.
Forgive. You know, it really.
She led the way in that. I was
Sheesh,
not
dude,
happy.
I would be.
I was like, which lawyer do we need to call?
Yeah.
Y'all could probably be
Myres
really
Myres
rich
can
right
go
now.
to the rest of his life for for free, whatever he wants to do.
My first car can be a 911,
Yes, exactly.
actually.
He got to go to Switzerland.
So on a
This is the
side
thing,
note,
man.
since he brought up a 911, his time in the hospital was where his love of cars started.
Yeah.
So
Oh, really?
anytime he would have a procedure, we wanted to like reward him for going through something difficult by giving him some sort of prize. So
or just
we-
make it easier.
yeah,
I
just
don't know if
make it
it's a
easier,
reward.
And so we would go to like Walmart and get a bunch of Hot Wheels, And so anytime he'd go through a procedure, we'd give him a Hot Wheel, and so he'd play with the Hot Wheel.
That makes Myres
On-
make so much more sense.
Not only
That's the
that,
whole
but
story.
to get him out of the room, we would go on walks all the time. Whether it be me, Gelaina, all of us, my mom, my anybody, like whoever was
Yeah.
there, we were going on walks around the hospital, so that we're not just sitting in a room, because we're there for months and months and months.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there was this little spot. If you walked kind of through, what do they call it? Neonatal, that area of the hospital, it goes to like a parking garage. And so at that time they were kind of adding on to the hospital. So there's like construction going on, and there's this breezeway that goes over the road underneath that goes around the hospital.
Gotcha.
And so we would go over there and just sit, and he would just watch cars go underneath all the time.
Construction.
And the construction. You could see the life flight helicopter land also. So like it was a great place to just go and sit and look at cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's where he was like, he'd call Hook. Yeah. He'd see like a truck that had a tow hitch on the back, and he goes, Hook. Because, he's still learning to talk at this point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so he's
By the
like,
way, all this is going on, and I'm 1.5.
right. And he's like,
Yeah.
hook, or no hook car. And so he like, that's where it started.
Yep. And from his room, we could watch the parking lot. And
Yeah.
So he would watch the cars even just from the room.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the birth of his car story.
Yeah. So then what happens after, because like my gut's working kind of like, my perception that I usually tell people when I'm trying to be brief is that it's kind of uphill from there.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Once they got us
Wait,
home.
uphill? Isn't like
Meaning like my life was pretty much normal.
okay? That would be downhill. from
Downhill.
there then.
Well,
Uphill's hard. Downhill's easy.
Yeah.
I
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I meant getting better.
Yeah.
That everything was going up.
Going up, yeah. Things got a lot better, and then I never wanted to go to the doctor ever again. You can kind
Yeah.
of start to understand how I felt about.
Wait, so so at this point now you're going home, and you've kind of like it, or from my understanding, in the two problems being like the digestive tract and the lung tract, you've kind of got it nailed down now. Like what exactly is wrong with his
Right.
specific
I
type
mean,
of CF?
because, fibrosing colonopathy didn't have to happen. In fact, the doctor went on to like present it, like he did.
Like
He wrote papers about it and probably got lots of credit, but
what an absolute scumbag! Golly, I
Yeah.
want to know this guy. I want to read it and I want to turn him in.
yeah,
I want to send him a letter. Be
it's
like,
very,
I know you're
very
retired
rare.
in your freaking vintage toy trucks,
Yeah.
but
So-
I don't like you.
That's not Bob. This is a different doctor.
I know. It's
None
just-
of that should have happened. So that's not normal CF. That's
Right.
like complications caused by the medical community. Is what that is. And so, once we got home, I just really never wanted to go to the doctor again. But that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
So I did cling to my pediatrician, who I think legitimately saved her life by doing what she did. But
Also,
Yeah.
if anyone ever wonders why I believe in God, it's because I'm alive.
100%.
For some reason, I'm alive. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
God has. A
Wait, so
plan
when did he
for
turn
you.
blue?
While we were in the hospital.
While we were in the hospital.
That was another time while he was in the
Yeah.
hospital. Like,
Yes. So we were in the hospital.
what do you think was like? Was this time the closest he came to dying with the blue time?
I don't know, honestly. I mean,
I'm
it
curious
was
what
pretty
the-
bad when he was in ICU.
I was fixing to say,
his
I
blood
think it
pressure
was
dropped,
when he
bottomed
went
out.
septic. It was, I think that was probably the closest
was
because his blood
bad.
pressure was way low.
That was
Interesting.
the amphotericin
Yeah.
reaction.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
so they made him NPO, and then
what does that mean?
You can't
Can't
have
eat.
food or drink,
Okay, yeah.
and then didn't give you an IV.
Right.
And so I'm sitting in the room with you, and he's down at the nurses station talking to the nurses, and I start yelling for them, and they don't come, and I pick you up and I carry you out in the hallway, and they were laughing. I don't know what y'all thought I was doing, but I was like, come help, and I'm yelling for them to come help, and they didn't quite understand. And then I was like, he's turning blue. And so finally they came, and they're like, why didn't you start CPR? And I'm like, because I'm in a hospital. You can do it better than me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's why he turned blue. Dr. Eric.
Wait, so did they do CPR on him? Sorry, did they do CPR
Yeah,
on
he
him?
coded. And then like everybody ran in the room. I don't know. I had to.
That was
yeah.
probably the closest. He died then.
I don't know.
What do you mean? So what the
Terrible.
closest he did, coding means they intubated you.
Finally.
We literally. Our wives are probably gonna really laugh at this.
I joke with Claire all the time about her intubating me.
Genuinely,
Okay. Well, he didn't.
like,
He wasn't intubated.
He wasn't intubated.
what do you mean? You said he coded.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you're going to get intubated.
What does being intubated mean? I swear this is the context that Gracie
Down your
and
throat.
Claire use the word intubated all the time, and I think it's like so funny because it's like the most like a medical professional word, because like it means intubated quite literally breaks down into not meaning what it actually means in the hospital. And it's kind of like same thing as coding. It's like, why don't you just say died? Like, why is this, what does
Well, there
coding
are also
mean?
different codes, I think. I could be wrong, but there's
Yeah, I don't
There's
think
different
he died.
codes.
He wasn't breathing. He didn't die.
Did his heart stop beating?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Maybe.
It's like
Maybe.
if
I
they
don't
did
know.
CPR, that means there wasn't a pulse. And if he wasn't
it?
breathing, yes, because you do just. I was a
Well, I thought
lifeguard. I
CPR
know how
was, like,
I was
not
CPR
breathing.
certified.
Yeah, he wasn't breathing. They
Well,
just-
CPR you would just put your, like, you would just be giving him like breath.
Yeah, I think
But
that's what he
if they were pushing on his chest, that means he didn't have a pulse because they're having to beat his heart for him too.
Well,
But either way, that's
Anyway,
freaking crazy though.
he's still here.
I'm here.
so
I'm here,
thankful.
guys.
He's
So
here.
thankful.
He's alive. Okay, so that's kind of nuts.
So when was Ansley?
Isn't that interesting? Yeah,
She came along in the middle of that kind of.
We bought a house. I mean, we
Yeah.
just went on to live life while we were in the hospital. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we moved into our first house in Mississippi while we were in the hospital.
That's freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, how old were you when Ainsley was born for real?
Two and a half.
Yeah.
Okay,
Two
so
and some
you like
change.
got pregnant during like all of this.
I know that the big surgery made you miss your second birthday. So once you got back together, we had a Myres' 2, Myres' 1 party because you were 1 again. You were whole, but
Right.
then you were 2.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So that
Gotta
was
have a
fun.
theme.
Wow,
Yep.
that's
So then-
crazy.
Ansley comes along. I was
In 2002,
2.5.
in August. So yeah,
Were we kind of done with the hospital at that point?
we were still in the hospital after she was born. I can't remember what for. I mean, we were in there so much, but
Yeah.
I definitely remember her sleeping at the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I kind of heal up,
You heal up. Yep.
and then you don't want to go to the doctor ever again.
You're right. Never again. So
Because as soon as I go in there, then something happens that they mess up.
exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah. I was still a little bit scared to switch doctors because they were the only ones in the state, and so I was a little bit scared to move out of go out of the state to go to a doctor, because when something would go wrong, it was like we needed to get to
Mayday.
Yeah.
Like if there was an emergent situation, you want to go
Yeah.
to the closest thing possible, not drive 3 hours, 4
Right.
hours.
Yeah.
Right. So I didn't get brave enough to do UAB until you were 7.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that also brought into the having to forgive the doctors, kind of, because it's like if we were to bring a lawsuit, let's say, again, if there was some sort of emergent situation and you have to go to that hospital,
Yeah. And
I mean, that's
you're
got
the
to be in
lawsuit.
their mind somewhere. Not that they, wouldn't
Yeah.
try to do the best and take care,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah.
We are, there's a lawsuit going on that has to do with Peacock Insurance. And so it's funny because they came to us looking for an insurance quote for a builder's risk policy for their church that they wanted to be built back, which burnt down, which they're suing us about. So
Wow.
Are you being serious right now?
genuinely, yeah.
I did not know that. That is
Yeah.
hilarious. What did y'all do? Did you get a quote?
Sam got him a quote, and then Shane was like, "No, wait, no, that's like the church that's suing us. We can't like contact them. Like we have to go through lawyers." So
through the lawyers to give them a quote.
well, we can't. We also
That's
the
so
case
incredibly Sam coded to
for a
not
lot
know.
of for a lot of reasons the case should get dismissed because they came to us asking for a quote, even though they're suing us, saying that we like didn't practice correctly, which
Interesting.
they're in the wrong. But anyway.
That's freaking crazy.
So Ansley comes along, and then I don't remember any of this stuff except for being pushed down the hallway in the hospital.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, because by the time I was 2.5, 3 years old, like I kind of had a normal childhood.
Right.
I went to the doctor's office for checkups
Did you get a vest?
when I was 7. Yeah, when we switched to UAB.
So until then, you gave him the back pat.
Hand percussion.
Yeah,
Wow.
Every morning, every night.
yeah.
Wow.
So the breathing treatment thing I was talking about before I had a vest.
We worked up really good forearms.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
parents had to literally manually use these little cups or use their hands to do a breathing treatment on me. So then I assume having Ansley was probably terrifying. Like, did you think, what if this next child's gonna have CF?
I really didn't. Not with Ansley, because I didn't want you to be an only child.
Yeah,
That
Yeah.
seemed like the worst thing in the whole world to me, is to have an only child. And so I was like, no matter what, we want another one.
yeah.
Hmm.
So she's born, no issues.
No issues. And of
Praise
course,
God.
you tested as a carrier, even though it was just because your genes hadn't been discovered yet. And so she didn't even test as a carrier. So she hasn't gone back and gotten tested now that they've discovered a lot of different genotypes to know. But
Yeah.
But she also did the sweat test, which
Yeah, we
obviously
did all
came back
that.
negative.
Oh.
So then,
But you had to wait. Like it was, 6 weeks or
you had
2 months?
You had to
or-
wait till the baby was old enough to
to
sweat.
sweat.
Yeah.
To
Funny.
actually do the test.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
So you had to wait from birth till, let's say, 2 months later where she could sweat. So
Yeah.
you had that 2 months of
We don't know.
but,
she
with,
was sleeping and not puking her guts
since
up.
I was
and
going to
pooping
say,
blood and
since
stuff
he
like that.
didn't sleep and lost his birth weight, when she got her birth weight, we are like, I think we're probably good. But
yeah.
Yeah.
there's still that little question of whether or not until you actually get the test done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was a little bitty thing.
She was a little bitty thing.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of
So how was life with 2 kids? 'Cause
Amazing.
Chloe wasn't born till I was 7.
That's right.
So you
a lot
had
of things
2 for
happened
a
when you were
while.
7. Got a vest.
Yeah.
Went to Birmingham.
big
and
year.
Chloe was born.
Yeah. Chloe was born
2007.
It's a
Big
good
year.
Big
Mhm.
year.
right before the crash.
Nick Saban became the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yeah,
that
we
year.
didn't
on.
care about that.
Come on.
Not on the
Not on
radar.
our radar at all.
Well, so then that's part of why I feel like we should speed it up a little bit, but I wanted to have the CF segment.
Sure.
So that's why we ended up homeschooling. Partly was because y'all wanted to send us to Pine Lake Christian School, I think is what it was called at the time.
Yeah, I really felt like the Lord was telling me to homeschool back when we lived in Dallas before we even had kids. But then when it came down to it, it's like, I didn't know anyone else. I didn't know anyone that homeschooled. It's kind of scary to go against the norm. And so our church had a school, and they were always, trying to encourage us to go there, and the other people in our life group, were sending their kids there. So we went and met with them, and we're kind of excited about it, and just, feeling it out, see what it looks like. And then came back a second time, and they had their lawyer in the room.
Whoa.
To say, well, we'll let you come, but, we can't ever give him any medicine. So you have to come up here and give him enzymes anytime he's going to eat.
Even though he knew how to take his own enzymes at that point.
Well, yeah, he's 5,
It's an
4 or
insurance
5.
thing. Yeah.
This was for, kindergarten. And
Yeah.
so,
You have to like pay more for insurance basically if you administer medicine, and I think there are other stipulations about like having a nurse on staff and all this stuff.
right. So, every birthday party, anytime Johnny brings anything to share with the class, I would have
Snack
to-
time, 10 a.m.
Got to go up there and give you your enzymes.
So it kind of forced your hand.
It kind of hurt my feelings a little bit that they would pull their lawyers in.
Yeah.
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 I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, that was a little bit hurtful. I mean, that was our church,
Yeah.
But anyway, so that kind of helped us solidify that we were going to homeschool.
I was going to point out, like, when we were exposed to homeschooling in Dallas, I was working at the Dallas store, Lifeway store.
Yeah.
And I think we had it was 2 girls that worked in the store that were high schoolers that were homeschoolers. And they were the best workers, even more so than the adults that work there.
Yeah.
Like,
Interesting.
they were phenomenal. And so that kind of like first kind of us being like realizing, oh wow, like there's some potential here for like, they can be amazing people.
Yeah.
Not that we didn't think they couldn't be, but yeah, that's kind of our first exposure.
Yeah. So then I guess y'all just thought Ansley too, like once you've made the decision with me, keep it in the family.
I really felt like we should homeschool anyway.
I'm also
Yeah.
curious if we can open up this can a little bit. I'm also fascinated right now. We just went on to Budapest with a girl named Lindy, who is from Seattle. Or she's actually from Olympia, which is like very much so outside of Seattle. But for us Southerners, she's from Seattle, and she grew up in a classically trained. Is that the right way of saying that? Is that what you did? Is you did classical?
Conversations.
We did a lot of classical stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's pretty
Classical
common.
education.
It's pretty common in the South because obviously just Christianity in general is just common in the South. But
And
like
also
in the Northwest,
a lot of bad schools in the South.
a lot of bad schools in the South. But like Seattle, very different vibe, same kind of, I guess, motive with Lindy. And I just had me thinking about it because Chloe was on the trip. We were talking about it with her. Myres was on the trip. We were talking about it with him. Lindy was on the trip. We were talking about it. And then I've just been thinking about homeschooling a lot over the past month. But I am curious, like, because there is some people that homeschool because they don't want to like expose their children to ideologies. Like I think that's the stereotype of it.
Yeah,
I would
kind
say
of, yeah.
is like they're like, oh, public schools are terrible. We want to make sure that they don't turn into insane people or like turn into something that isn't just like what the parents think or something like that.
Yeah.
That's
So-
what I thought in the beginning until I really got into the homeschool community and met all these different people, because I'll say at first I felt very comfortable. Oh, you homeschool. I kind of had in my mind, I know what you believe. I know what you're going to be like. And then I realized, you know what? Not everybody homeschools for that reason.
It's also like if you think about my mom and her like die hard head first into like becoming Supreme Court justice, whatever lady, like she took that energy to basically becoming my doctor and then to becoming like me and my sister's teacher. So like she becomes a master of whatever.
And then into starting a school.
Right, yeah.
What did you start? Did you start a school when you did that?
I did.
You started the. Well, I've talked to you about this before. You started like the cohort that Myres is a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a university model private school, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But that was high school.
Sure,
So-
but that was nice.
But I taught, as soon as I started teaching him, I was like, well, this is way more fun if you have more friends around. So I started teaching kindergarten. So I had about 20 kids that I met with and taught kindergarten for, I guess, 4 years. I did that because I did it with Myres and then with Ansley. And so that was really fun. And we mostly did that at home. And then once we got out of home, then we started meeting at the church, and I taught U.S. history, and I had 200 students in that class that would rotate through different ways. Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, I kind of from the beginning was teaching other kids as well. Just
Interesting.
more fun with friends.
Yeah. So like I feel like I grew up with a similar, like I had a lot of friends because of school. It was probably more similar to a private school,
Yeah.
but we just had so much more free time because we weren't in class for 8 hours a day.
Well,
But-
right. So like when I'm teaching kindergarten, we're going like letter by letter. So I'll give you an example. Like when we get to G, I'm like goat, well, each letter stood for something different, apple, whatever. So we get to G and it's goat. And I'm like, well, I got to take these kids to see some goats.
Yeah.
This is Mississippi. We got to find some goats.
Yeah.
So I look up and I find the president of the Mississippi Goat Farmers Association, and I email him. I'm like, can I bring my class out to see your goats? And he's like, absolutely. And so he tells me when to come, like they'll be having babies at this time, so you got to come out. And so I bring all my students out, and we get to watch goats be born. And we learned how to like milk the goats. And I mean, like there's so much you can do with homeschooling that you can't do in a classroom. And so that was just fun.
Yeah. We just had so much more of like a hands-on education.
Absolutely.
It was so strange meeting Myres and it was so strange meeting Myres and figuring out more about his homeschool background, because where I'm from, homeschoolers are definitely the stereotype.
Yeah.
They're like, there's also a small private school there that Jacob McClendon went to.
He
that
sure did.
And it was definitely like kind of a way to silo your kids into this like way of thinking, which
The
tended to lead to
tabernacle
like
way.
a lot of like rebellion.
Yeah.
And it's super interesting. But there's this like classical training. I don't know a better way of I don't know a better descriptor than that. But the way of like thinking through things in a much more like open and like academic and teaching people how to think, not what to think kind of
that
way.
was my goal. I want my students to love to learn and to be able to think on their own. And if you can teach someone to love to learn, then they're going to continue learning on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like you're going to go through life and not know a lot of things, but if you were equipped to learn how to do something, that's the primary skill that education should provide.
I genuinely like did not learn how to learn or how to love to learn until college. Like legit, and to this day, I'm really grateful for my education, because I think getting things done and knowing how to succeed in the like American system is very easy to me, because I just like learned how to get into a system, analyze the system, learn how to succeed in the system. And that's like all my public school education did was like show up, understand the syllabus, kill the syllabus, leave the class, forget everything. Like that was just kind of the recipe. And there were AP classes at my high school that probably would have been more, but I like had to read a book. So I was like, oh, that's so ridiculous. Like how dare them make me read a book, But I would have to read like, I don't know, like 1984 or I'm trying like the classics like
George Orwell.
Yeah. Isn't it 1984?
Yeah,
I
it
love
is.
1984.
Jacob,
It's
I don't know
like-
if you saw on my story, but Jacob had a cup and he wrote on it, and it said, "Who wrote 1984? George Orwell," and it's JORJORWELL.
George Orwell.
And it
George
made
Orwell.
me and Claire
George
laugh
Orbings.
so much. Okay, we should probably start winding down, I think, a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Chloe comes along. That's 2007. What do you think are like the things you had the most fun doing with all of us as kids? Like, what are your highlights from my childhood?
Oh, wow. I'll have to think on that one for a minute. I mean, obviously, I loved homeschooling, and I loved all of our adventures. I loved, crab hunting at the beach, or going out and catching toads, or going down to the little waterfalls. And that was the most fun for me, just exploring and being out in nature. And through homeschooling, like just seeing how how God would put opportunities before us. Like if we were doing a unit on birds, then inevitably, like all of a sudden, we'd have all these different birds come and make nests in our yard, you know, and
Yeah.
that was God. It was just like him totally going before us and preparing the way. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I loved raising you guys. It was the highlight of my life for sure.
Yeah. That's pretty fun. What do you think, Dad?
I just like seeing, it was fun seeing what y'all's interests were, whether it be you with cars, so us going to like one of those rallies that came through New Orleans or whatever, going to Monster Truck Rally, or, you know, trying to find out what each one of you was interested in and then trying to find ways to further that interest, I guess.
Yeah.
Whether that be all of us as a family or, you know, me or mom or whoever, trying to, you know, push you to learn about whatever that is and make that be, you know, a part of your life, and us being a part of that as well.
Yeah.
Like we started breeding dogs because
Yeah.
Ainsley wanted to be a vet.
That's
Right. Yeah. She doesn't want to do that anymore.
She changed
but
her mind.
that's
We're
okay.
still breeding dogs.
Yep. Yep. And y'all still have 3 dogs.
We do.
We do.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
What's next for you guys?
Oh, grandkids, I'm sure.
Tick, tick, tick tock.
So mom got a job at Samford.
Yeah.
Dad is working. He worked at one place for a long time, McGowan Working Partners, as an accountant. Now works for AdSource Group doing like project accounting stuff.
Yep. If there's anybody out there that needs a fill-in accountant of some sort, whether that be like a CFO or a bookkeeper, those kinds of things, AdSource Group can help out with that.
Yep.
But my current client is Alabama Power. I've been working with them for about 2.5 years in their corporate accounting department. So what's next for me is I'm studying for the CPA exam.
Come on.
So
Big
and
Let's
running
go,
a half
guy.
marathon.
Yes.
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 Go on.
Which we'll be doing with you.
Yeah, where are you
Don't know
at
when we're
on your
doing it,
where are
but-
you at on your build?
I did 7 miles yesterday.
Let's go. He's close. You could
Yeah.
go out and run 13.
You could go do it right now.
Yeah. If you
Not
yeah,
in the weather. It was
No.
so humid yesterday.
Yeah, it's
I hit a
brutal.
wall at about 5 3/4.
Dude, I mean, we
so
ran.
hot.
I
We
thought
ran at 6 a.m. the other day,
I also
and
thought
it
this
was
was
brutal.
funny. Whenever we ran, me, you, and Cam the other day, you and Cam were at like a chill heart rate. I was at like a threshold heart rate.
You also didn't tell us that until we finished. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
good
I'm
job
not in
pushing
shape.
through."
That's right.
That's what I'm telling
I
you.
also kind of talked. I didn't talk for the last mile, but I kind of talked even though I was at threshold. But anyways, or not threshold. I was at, you know what I mean? Like it was at
High heart rate.
zone 3 or whatever it's
Yeah.
called. But I also noticed that whenever you run with Sam is at like a chill heart rate, and you are at a zone 3 heart
Yes,
rate. I
and
thought
he'll
was funny.
tell you that he runs the same pace as me, and it's just not
It's
true.
not
He's
true.
faster than me.
I see what he does on Strava.
When you see
Holy
him run by
cow.
himself,
It's like 6-minute miles.
he's fast.
He's a
Yeah.
freak.
For
Yeah.
multiple miles.
Yeah, I do
that
my
day
threshold
he
runs with
was
him.
running with the number 1 cross country guy at Samford, and that made things make a little bit more sense to me.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, at least he wasn't just by himself. Like
He's
at least he was
probably
with a
like
freak.
15 to 30 seconds faster than me at his fastest, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
insane.
and me at my
On a
fastest.
fun little side note, I was on Lakeshore Trail
Mm-hmm.
earlier this week. I was telling them this, and I was on this was on my 7-mile run. So I guess it was yesterday. So I had gone towards Walmart first. So I did a mile there, a mile back. So that was 2. So I was on my 4th mile. I was
Okay.
in front of Samford at this point. And so I see further up the trail, I see 2 guys running. No, they're walking. I think they're walking. And I swear to you that the guy on the right looked like Sam Edens.
Really?
From a distance. So I was getting ready to say, hey, you know, passing by. So I'm running, I'm getting closer. And it still looks like him. And so I start like raising my hand and nod and all this kind of stuff. And as I raise my hand and I nod at this guy, it was not Sam. And so the guy kind of looks at me like, hey.
Honestly,
Yeah.
that people do be waving to strangers on that.
Yeah.
Because I know he's run that, you know,
Oh,
he
yeah.
runs it. So
Yeah, he
Kinda-
does.
Random, you saw another
Anyway,
redheaded
shout out
dude
Sam
looking like
Edens.
Sam.
Yeah.
Wow.
Y'all are moving into your house next week,
yep.
And then 5 days later, we go to Italy.
and then you're going to Italy.
Oh yeah, with we haven't talked about this yet with Dr. Leonard.
That's
It's gonna
right.
be epic.
Yeah. And then
And Phil Kimmery.
I'm having kids. Ansley's getting married.
Yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
gonna get grandkids a little quicker. You're not gonna have to worry about.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that happening fast. I feel like.
Yeah. Well, selfishly, thank you for coming on my podcast, Mom and Dad.
Also,
Absolutely.
selfishly, thank you for coming on the
Part
podcast.
of what me and Steven wanted to do originally was like record conversations with our family so that we can just have that for forever.
Absolutely.
You know? So
Just think-
we could talk for another 2 hours because
When
It's like
Myres-
we only got to
we kind of only
Chloe
got to
getting
Chloe,
born.
yeah.
when
But-
Myres is 75, he could listen to this.
Yeah,
yeah.
I can
I
show
love
can
you,
watch the video.
Myres.
I can show my grandkids this.
That's right.
Your
Which is
grandkids
cool.
can show their grandkids this.
Yeah.
Just
It's
wanted to
safe
know.
spot.
Kinda
your-
They'll
see-
be like, yeah, they had this old archive service
They
called
can
Spotify.
they can see the miracle that Myres is.
Yeah. Praise God.
Godspeed.
Yeah. Thanks for being my parents.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Love you. Very proud of y'all.
Thanks for listening, everyone. For whoever is still here 2 hours in, basically.
Yeah.
Has it been that long? Good gracious.
Hour 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Time flies.
I think that's a wrap.
Yep.
All right.
That was fun.
Sorry, Jacob's thing is starting at 8.
Oh, I really would have reviewed CS stuff if I remember.
Pleasure. All right.